Hello and welcome back. Ben here from Supercoach Insider. It's been a while. I want to apologize. I've had quite a lot going on, but here I am. I'm just going to give you a little bit of a brief video as far as my team coming out of the buys and some of the train of thoughts that I'm thinking moving forward. And hopefully that has helped you. If you haven't already, please do like, subscribe for all of our content as well. Chris and Swizz putting out some awesome gear as well in that meantime. But for me personally, great win last night for the Lions. Unfortunately, sorry, Swizz, mate, you guys got flogged. But look, let's shout out and see how we're going. But a little bit of a recap on how I have been progressing. I scored 1900 last week, sitting at about 5,500 ranks. So I am looking at trying to make some different moves. Now, fortunately for me, some of those early trades that didn't go well for me meant I had to be a little bit more conservative. That meant holding Ridley, which has come back and been quite good for me. It also meant holding Sheasel and Zeeble because I wasn't sure on how I was going to fill my side otherwise and making moves that way. So when I started to make some ground, I didn't get Weddle. When I started to make some ground, I didn't get Briggs. And then there's a few of those decisions or Van Ruin. So there's the ones that kind of you start to lose some cash generation and other people are able to upgrade a little bit quicker or a little bit stronger than what I was able to. And that's pretty much where we've been at. So that and a few of those early decisions, which for those who have followed for the whole season know that I made some pretty bad calls early in this year. So that's just where we're at. So look, for me personally, I was hoping to make a little bit more ground up through the buys. I did field 18 last week as a cheap 18, as far as, I had a few of these rookies that I was hoping were going to come on and absolutely shat the bed. So that wasn't very good for me. But I'll give you a look at my team now. So I scored 1900. I'm sitting at about 5,500 overall. However, I do have slightly more trades than some other people at this point. Now, stupid ads. So for the series going up, this is my team as of currently. Now, the changes that were made, I did bring in Dawson, I think it was a couple of weeks back, which I'm glad I did, just because I think he bottomed out a little bit in price, and he was someone that I considered a must-have. Now, Gorn is an absolute pain in my ass. I'm hoping maybe if I keep some trades, or I might just have to deal with him at this point. There's not much more benefit that I can get from moving him on. But if I had Briggs, then Gorn would have been 100% out of my side already. So that's why I'm a little bit upset. That 250K could have been someone I could have just run with. And I know a lot of people that have gotten off that as well. So for me, I've brought, so last week, sorry, I had to get a little bit creative. So I downgraded, I think it was forward to make up, free up some cash. And I was looking pretty thin. So I was like, okay, well, I had McRae on my side, which was going well for me. But then I thought if I can target Clary this week, which was the plan, before he got ruled out for another week. And now it's even more questionable whether I want him. But last week I was like, okay, Clary coming back in. Do I want McRae and do I want, like a Mills or someone like a bit cheaper, etc.? Or do I want to go like, say, Cameron and then use that cash and then get a Clary? So it was like McRae. It pretty much was a little bit of a spread, but I put it out on Twitter anyway. And the consensus generally, I think 74% said, Clary. So I got rid of McRae last week. I banked, I think it was about 150,000. I went down to Darcy Cameron. So he gives me some ruck cover there. And that way I was going to use that money to load up. So I had heaps of cash. So I was going to go Humphrey up. So I've gone Humphrey to Walsh this week. And I could have gone, so I've still got 324K in the bank. Now, this is the situation I'm on. So at the moment, I do want to get rid of Filippo. So where do we sit? Now, there's a couple options that I am looking at. Now, the first one involves seeing how Fife goes. If Fife scores really well, I get some sort of flexibility. If Fife scores well and Mills doesn't, then all of a sudden I'm in a bit of a better boat because I might be able to bridge that gap next week. And I'll know roughly how much I'll need in order to bridge that gap, because between Fife and Mills, it'll probably only be 70K, 80K, maybe 100 at worst, depending on how both players go. So I'm looking at even trying to give myself a swing option at this point. Not many others have 5 trades. So I had 6 going into this round. Yes, I'm not happy with Sheasel and Zeeble, but I'm hoping they can just ride it out. And I'm hoping to pick up a few late points in the back end when people have run out of trades. A lot of people have Sicily, a lot of people have Oliver, and there's a few other things. So I was hoping to maybe pick up some points in the back end of the season and slowly just move my way back towards finishing in the top couple thousand if I'm lucky. And that's where trades in hand is going to come in favor for me. So I'm hoping there is some anarchy for some other people out there so that way I can actually kind of overtake. So the whole risk it for the biscuit isn't really going to work for me this year because I'm so far back. So I'm just hoping for a bit of anarchy and then having one or two more trades than other people and trying to make it sort of happen from there. Now, bit of flexibility. So number one, I didn't go Neil or Dunkley last night. So I was considering Neil. I wasn't sure which way to swing it. I didn't go either because I figure I'll go like Dawson or Laird into Marshall. Um, that's kind of where I'm sitting at this point in time. So I think Laird will probably rack up more touches. But when you put in, Wardlaw, you put in LDU, I think they are fairly good. One of those mids is probably going to rack it up. So Dawson probably has more forward impact. He probably hits the target better. If North is slack as far as in the spread and when they're moving up the ground, I think they look for Dawson a lot more. So this is one of those games he could absolutely dominate. And he's also gone over 150 more than Laird has. So Laird will rack it up. He'll probably go 120, 130, 135, 140 maybe. But Dawson has real hurt factor, getting the 160s, 170s, like he has already like 2 to 3 times this year. So and he partnered up, had a really good round last week. So therefore, he's done it once before where he's had a good round. He's just like hit while the lightning's like, hit it while it's hot and he's on a heater. So I'm kind of tempted to back him in on a heater as well. So it could go either way. And also, but that means fading Bontempelli, Aish back into the side. So I was like, you can go either way. And so if you went Neil, congratulations for you. You take that VC 100%. And then we sort of see how it lies. Now, the other situation I have is I've got 5 on the bench. I've got enough cash to make my final upgrade. Do I bring in a premium mid? Do I bring in a forward? Like I've got some flexibility there. Do I bring in a defender and then cover all lines? So at the moment, similar to what I did last year, I had cover for all positions except defense. And that way, if there was a long-term injury in defense or whatever, or if someone was just out for a week or two, I could just trade them. Now, this year with the suspensions and the tackling and the rest of it, there's a lot more short term, like 1 to 2 weekers. So I'm thinking now it's probably even more important to actually have cover on all lines compared to other years gone by. Because if someone's missing for a week, you don't want to have to cop a donut or you don't have to want to waste one trade just because they're missing 1 week. It would be absolutely painful. So that's where a little bit of flexibility comes in. So for me, I'm actually considering bringing in a defender into this spot here and then pushing, say, a Sheasel or a Zeeble into this forward line and then actually being to allow a little bit of flexibility into that region. So at this current point in time, it should be. Oh, why is Dunkley in my? Oh, wow. Okay. So if Dunkley wasn't meant to be in my forward line, I must have reset my team before the round. So Dunkley's obviously meant to be forward. So yeah, it looks like I'm not bringing a midfielder in this week anyway, which I wasn't really planning on it. Hopefully Walsh does get DPP status from there. So what I was looking at is bringing, say, Zeeble or a Sheasel into this forward line and then flicking it around. So it'll be, let's just go with, that would be part of the trading process. So I was looking at maybe Lloyd. Swans have a pretty hard run coming home. The issue is he's 500K, so I could definitely then go 5 into Mills next week, which would be the consideration, and then having that loophole swing between all positions. Now, there is a case to be made that I could also just sit on 5, and if he's fit and healthy, he'll probably get you 75, 85, etc., which is a great little emergency option. You're not really going to probably, you might be able to loop him, I guess, if he goes big for a round. If he goes like a 90 or something, you could probably take that over, like a Zeeble maybe if he's not doing so great. But I also wouldn't mind getting Mills in for the extra trade. So how that would work. So here's the two rationales of thinking. Number one, I'm looking for someone that's cheap enough in defense. So like a Lloyd 500K. I was thinking Keys at 460, but then I am now again locked out of defense. So Lloyd for 500, Keys for like 460. For that 40K, I can get a guy probably averaging around 100 in defense. He hasn't been great lately, Lloyd, but again, they have a tough run coming home, so there should be more ball in that defensive line. So I think Lloyd probably still holds around the 100 average in that defense. So there's a 100-point player there. That way, I've got about, I think it's about 80K left for me to be able to go next week, five into Mills, and I'll have three trades left. I can then pretty much loophole and swing. So Mills will be the extra player, so he can play midfield. If I can then sort of use a loop there for like a Sheasel or a Zeeble and see which way it's going for that, as far as being able to loop them. If they do well, I can throw the extra forward in the midfield, or I can loop through and have cover and good cover. Like Mills would be great cover to have instead of Mills. So that's where I'm thinking, well, Lloyd and the points there, plus the being able to loophole and maybe take some more of those scores instead of five. It's a little bit of a risk for that one extra trade, but my team would look a lot stronger for it. And I think a few other teams will have Mills as well. And meanwhile, by that point, Fife would have made 100K for me because I got on him super early. So I'm not too upset with that and using him more as a stepping stone. The other option is if I could just keep Fife and I've got enough money there that I could go straight up and go Filippo to Sinclair. Now, Sinclair, is he going to average me 10 points more per game than Lloyd? There's a very good chance that could happen. So I could then take those 10 points on field each week, use Fife as an emergency if I need him, still have all the cover for all those positions, and just knowing that if someone's out, then I'll be taking a Fife instead of a Mills, for instance. So that's where I might end up losing points if I'm missing someone for a round or two. But if I have a healthy team, there's a good chance that I probably score better that way. So that's where I'm kind of at. I could probably even loophole Fife in with, like Zeeble most weeks. Hopefully, Zeeble plays first, or do a whole range of things like that for me. So yeah, let me know what you think at this point in time. So I'll give you an idea on what it looks like. So let's just say, so Filippo needs to get on my side because that's where my money is pretty much well made, and stupid ads trying to pop up. Okay, so let's go and bring Cine Boy up into here. Um, I think this might have actually hurt me. Hang on. Okay, so that's my swing through here now. Okay, and then go straight up and then bring in. I know I'm a little bit late to the train here, but I feel like he does have the most hurt factor. Sinclair. So I almost forgot his name for a second there. Jesus. Okay, so complete trade. I'll have 30K left. So that way, if I do have an injury, um, I can cover it. So now I can actually loophole, say, Fife with a Sheasel or a Zeeble. I'll probably say Zeeble because he's been horrible lately. So I could do that kind of scenario most weeks, not this week, obviously, because they play at the same time. But you get the gist. So I could sort of run something similar to that and see how we go. The other consideration is Fife might kind of hold in cash. Jeremy Cameron might drop quite a lot of cash his first one or two back with his negative score. So I could even go from say Fife to a Cameron if I needed to with those three and still be quite strong. Cameron with a high sort of ceiling and sort of cover for that as well. So that's probably, I think, maybe the strongest option. Sinclair probably has more coverage and more ownership as well, so it does help me with some of my league matchups. And I've got four trades left with a completed side. So completed side with Fife, I can now cover Ruckline with Cameron, Fife on field. I can go um, yeah, so if a defender's out, I can throw Zeeble in there and throw Fife on as well. So there is quite a little bit of coverage in all positions. The only thing is I don't like Fife that much. Like, he could go 41 week like he has before if they get flogged by GWS, or he can go huge. So that's where the Mills scenario kind of comes in for me a little bit more, and going like a Lloyd or someone or other. See, I would even be tempted to go Houston. So I'm waiting on tonight's game. So if Sydney play and Mills kind of looks okay, but doesn't score like crazy well, part of me is even thinking I could even wait until Freo and North and stuff play. The only issue is that I'll kind of lock myself into this scenario. But if Fife goes fairly well, then I might be able to try and say Fife goes well um and Mills doesn't ish, then I might even be able to, instead of I won't be able to get Lloyd because that'll be too far gone, but I might even be able to change that whole Sinclair trade into a Houston if that'll bridge the gap enough for me to actually get Mills. That's the other thing I am considering. So that's pretty much where we are at. Let me know how you are tracking, how you are ranking. Sorry, I've been away. Yeah, work, family, it's been pretty full on. And yeah, shoulder. So I need a shoulder reco as well coming up as well. So this is the new scenario. The set up a new station here so I'll be able to get some more content out for you as well. I'm also considering just doing a little bit of a draft guide as well, because that's probably somewhere I have really flourished this year. And Chris and I normally strong with drafts, and anyone that's followed us for the last sort of 6 years has known that draft was pretty much where I started before going into classic. And there's quite a few leagues that I'm doing fairly well in as well. So I'm happy to show you those teams as well. That's it, in and out. That's a really quick, actually. 15 minutes. Can I dive in now? I might show you now. Let's go in for some value. All right, let me go share screen. All righty, let's go into draft. Let's dive in a little bit. We've got a little bit of time, and let's have a bit of a look into my draft teams if it would like to show us. All righty. So this is Specky Cup. So this one I got quite a good side in early on. I think my team is also called the waiver guy because I've started calling myself the waiver guy because I'm pretty much the one that just likes to have a little bit of a flick on now and then when I'm on Supercoach and just sort of see how the teams are progressing and has anyone been dropped? So for me, I got Oliver early on, which was looking pretty good, except for the fact that he has been injured of late. I got Gorn super late. No one wanted him. I'm hoping he still gets DPP, which would be great for me. Walsh was injured at the start of the year, so people slept on him. I got Parrish on the way back. This is an 8-team league, so it's a bit smaller. And this one had, I think it's 22 per side. So I got Parrish on the way back through. I got jumped early in forwards. So forwards, I actually went um, I got Goulden early, I got Rosie early, I got Cornelio early because everyone was going into defensive line, and I was able to pick up value elsewhere. So I picked up value on Gorn super late. I got Lloyd really late in defense, and then I got people like Blakey, and then I've stacked my midfield. So I got like Sarong as well, which has been killer. With Anderson and Rowell has also been really good for me. Newcomb I picked up is being serviceable. And now on the waiver, I actually picked up. So I did a couple of trades. So I was expecting Walsh and Gorn to get DPP early. So I kind of made some moves, which was a little bit sketchy. I traded out Caleb Daniel and Finlayson for McRae, which worked out really well for me because then I was able to pick up Dylan Moore off the waiver. Someone dropped him in his low slump, put him on my bench, started banging out some nice scores after that. So that was one Dylan Moore picked up off the waiver. Then I also traded to Chris, which hasn't paid off yet, but I'm hoping it will. I traded Ollie Wines, who wasn't doing well at that point in time, and Darcy Cameron for Luke Davies-Uniacke. So I was hoping again to get another stronger midfield so then I could play someone in that forward line. And then with that 2-for-1, I was able to pick up like Keys as well later on. So that worked out great for me. Picked up Brayshaw off the waiver for Melbourne in defense. Picked up Wangaleen Millera off the waiver just last week. I tried to get him a couple of weeks ago and wasn't successful. He had a 60. Someone dropped him. I was like, yeah, bang, straight on him. I've picked up McGovern as well, who I'll probably dump this week. And then I also picked up Zorko off the waiver. So if someone got rid of him, he has a really high ceiling as well. So that's another one that I picked up off the waiver. So for this team, I picked up Keys, I picked up Zorko, I picked up Dylan Moore, I got Brayshaw, I got Wangaleen Millera, and then I traded for Luke Davies-Uniacke and McRae as part of those sort of ones that I've really targeted for that. Now, here's the thing. I've tried to make a couple moves lately as well for draft. If you are playing someone and they're borderline making finals and they need to win, then you should be targeting people that aren't playing in their teams just now. So for me in this one, I think I'm about 3 wins clear in first. I targeted Sicily. I was like, "Hey mate, you need to win to be in the finals. Let me buy Sicily off you." And I tried to offer him, like even something decent. Like I'll try and give you Lloyd and Keys and to fill out his side because the rest of his side wasn't that great. And then kind of go from there. So that was something else that I was trying to do. I also tried to hit up like Dawson because again, my bench is pretty well stacked in this side. I could just go off the waiver and get some more value as well and try and do some of these 2-for-1s, improve your points on field, and then keep an eye on the waiver to pick up someone else of value, wait for their stocks to rise, and then still try and do some more 2-for-1s. So that was being really successful. The other one as well is going into so YouTube. So this is with let me just see if I can get this whole screen in there. Might zoom out one. So this is with some of the YouTube peeps as well. So going through Draft Expert and a few others. So like Eno and a few of these other sort of YouTubers. So this is the draft that we did earlier in the year where it was live, although I was trying to just chatting on there. And the consensus was, generally I pick quite well in draft leagues, although I was doing 2 drafts at once at that point. So this team again, looking at value, trying to load up in that forward line early on, got some value where value was to be had, and then looked for the waiver wire. So for this team, I had so what is it? So Caleb, Daniel, Butters. So Butters, Rosie, Goulden. I went early for forwards again, which was my strategy for a lot of this year, just based on the value that was there to be had. And that worked out really well for me. Caleb Daniel, I picked up super late. So again, 90s average value. Someone I thought had potential to be in 100. Looking at, so Rail and Anderson, again, value for that line as well. Houston was the one that I picked up probably earlier in defense just because he was still available. And he was one that I thought had 100 plus or scope to go 105. So you're kind of tossing between going, okay, so where is everyone else selecting? Where is the value at currently? And then I had my strategy, but I wasn't afraid to pick up the occasional defender from that as well. Bailey Smith, I got off the waiver. So this is a pretty deep league. I think we have, as you can see, lots of players there, lots of bench coverage as well. So you're just trying to pick your moments. So I got Smith, Newman off the waiver. Rivers, I got off the waiver as well, who's been pretty serviceable, as most people would sort of know for that. I was able to get like Anderson. So Dangerfield hasn't really worked out for me. Short got injured, which was a bit painful. Luke Davis Uniacke and Newcomb again, 2 have been really good. Mills hasn't paid me back yet because he was one of my earlier picks. But again, I'm still, I think, on top of this ladder here. Um, Briggs, I picked up off the waiver. I got exposed a little bit in this league because I didn't know that they put 2 rucks in. So everyone's going ruck, ruck, ruck early. And I'm like, hey, like, how stupid are these guys? I'll just get rucks later. Not realizing that we needed 2 rucks. I think I had Nick Nat or something or other. And so I'm just kind of holding on here. I have been playing Finlayson in that spot quite a lot. I got Owens off the waiver, Setterfield off the waiver. Shuey's just coming a late run. Clark was dropped recently, Cumming and Witherden. So a little bit of bench coverage there. But generally scoring quite well. And Keys off the waiver, which is huge. So Finlayson, Keys off the waiver, Briggs off the waiver. So again, just trying to look at some of those trends. Rivers, Newcomb as well off the waiver, Smith off the waiver, Witherden, Cumming, Clark, Shuey, Setterfield, Owens, all off the waiver. So that comes down to just looking at trends, looking at some analysis, looking at who looks like they're going to be going big, and then going from there. So we have a look at the league. Oh, I've slipped down. So because last week, right, the buy rounds, I lost that buy round. But total points, I should be first overall. So 28,452. So points 4. I have scored the most points in that league. And it has been quite close between these 2 guys, although they did get the win last week during the buy round. So we played all 3 of the buys. Last week, obviously, I had a lot of players missing, and there's a little bit of luck with the buys, let's put it that way. So, and I was favorable for some. My percentage is also higher than these guys. So if I win one game, bang, I'm straight up above that. And again, I've got probably the most depth for them, especially seeing that I have, Dangerfield and Mills and a few of these guys coming back into that side as well. So that way it actually holds me in good stead to make a late surge as well. And they play finals. So if I'm top 4, we get a good little shake up through that and see how we go. The Dr. Supercoach one, I'm not as well in. 16 teams, huge draft league, as you can see, to the point where I'm even holding like Yo and Hall because there's little value. 16 teams playing, I think it's 18. So quite a lot. So you're playing people like, and again, I was trying to leave defense till a little bit late. I got a little bit unlucky with some injuries in that defensive line, just trying to pick up value in the defensive line. So yeah, so I mean, I think Zorko, I think I picked up Zorko off the waiver actually, so that was pretty lucky for me. Hobbs again, Bailey, Bolton, so I've lost a few there. Wits has been serviceable. Boak, Steele, Wines, Dangerfield, Walsh. Not the strongest team. I feel like it was better, but I think I lost some to injury, and it's also quite hard. So yeah, just trying to pick up value. Steele was the one that just slipped to me about pick 10. So there wasn't much there, and I thought he had some scope, but hasn't been great. Walsh has been a little bit inserviceable. Wines I got for value because he was just there, and everyone else was like below 100 average. So I picked him up still. Dangerfield, again, hit and miss at the moment. So Himmelberg, hopefully he plays in defense, and pretty much compared to a lot of other sides, it's actually not too bad because when you are kind of going to the bottom of the barrel for that. So I think I'm sitting mid tier. I'm sitting fourth. Okay, so perfect. So I'm sitting fourth at that point. They didn't play the buys, so Chizo's here just equal points just below me, and the bottom two actually go down to Div 2. So this is currently Div 1 and sitting in fourth. So I'm actually pretty happy with that, considering that I fell from Div 1 to Div 2 a couple of years ago. I think I picked Crips and something else. It was horrible, and Rail and Crips maybe that year. It was horrible. So then, yeah, back into Div 1, and now looks like I'll be staying in Div 1 as well. So that was very good for me. And then keeper leagues, a couple here. Now, the first one is my team is jacked in this keeper league to the point where it's ridiculous. So, again, this one was with like AFL 360. For this keeper league, I had like pick 8 or pick 10. Like I think it was pick 8. I had like last pick, and everyone's going like all the old experienced guns. So I was left with going, okay, well, I can't go pick all the. It was a brand new keeper league, I think 2 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and actually it might have been the start of last year. And people were mocking me. Start of last year, they were mocking me saying, yeah, oh, good luck winning in 2028. And so I went with Brayshaw, I went with McCluggage as my first two. And based off just trying to go for young talent who I thought had a lot of scope and upside, I picked up Dacos pretty early. Obviously, I didn't win last year, so I had first pick because I just went with all youth. So that was my strategy. I went with all youth, and everyone was having a good laugh, saying, "Oh, enjoy your premiership in 5 years' time or 10 years' time." But yeah, got Dacos, got Young. Campbell, I think, will be really serviceable. Rowell, Green, Anderson. So people that everyone was just sort of sleeping on. Picked up Rowbottom off the waiver, picked off Briggs off the waiver. So now I actually got rid of a little bit of youth because I'm sitting fairly good now because my players have gone better than I expected. So Green went to the next level. Anderson's kind of gone next level a little bit. Dacos as well, with like Jackson going well, Sheasel and a few of these others. So it's worked out pretty well as far as trying to make some moves. So I actually traded, I think it was Rochelle and maybe my first pick next year or something for Sheasel, just because I really rated him. So I do want him for that X factor and should play forward quite a lot as well. That one's questionable. I'll give you that. But really made some moves to kind of make that happen. So for this one, Ashcroft is obviously here, and I'll take his score for Desaius. Yeah, Horn Francis, Hobbs, Erasmus, Jinby, Ed Richards. So kind of trying to now get a bit of a blend. And then this is the strategy for keeper leagues that I have, because if you allow off-season trading and you don't just pick your players and then they all get put in the pool, if you allow off-season trading, then you can actually have some room and scope to offload in the off season. So what I'll do is I'll actually not just pick for now. So I'll have my set sort of 14 players that I have in mind. I also get to watch them all preseason. So some people look like they're really going to advance, so they might become keepers, or they might go up in value. So I try and increase my spread of people that I'm kind of watching or that others might be interested in, so that way I can always trade them off and get currency back. So if you can then trade someone and then improve your draft position, like anything, then all of a sudden you can actually, because someone will go, oh, I actually really want this player, but they were going for a win. It's like, cool, I'll switch your draft picks and then I'll move up. And then you kind of keep moving up so you can get better picks and then try and make your launch from there. So that's what I'm sort of looking at doing here as well. Definitely a lot of people. I'm not going to be able to keep them all here, but trying to get a blend in like Keys and a few others now. So Newman, Salem, just to try and help me win. I think I'm sitting about third or fourth currently. Second. Okay, so second in here. So making a pretty good charge considering that I am quite a young side. Which is I shifted this because I wasn't really looking at the team. I came last year, didn't look at my team, had Ashcroft as captain for the first like 7 rounds, and then turns out I was actually winning games. So I was like, okay, well, obviously, I'm not going to be losing and getting a high draft pick. So let's just start to change the strategy a little bit. Started to trade a few more ready-made people, and then go about it that way. So that's the thinking for that, and that's why I've got just stacking some of these players that I probably I won't be able to keep Bergman, but he just re-signed. So Hobbs might have some currency in there. Someone might like Owens if I can't keep him, or Bailey and Rowbottom as well. A lot of draft currency probably coming up. Once Parker probably moves back forward or whatever's going on. There's really some good scope for Rowbottom to maybe be worth something, and Campbell as well. So they're the ones I'm just holding for that value. Now, this one, I actually won this keeper league last year. And then I looked at the people on my heels going, I have no chance of winning in the next 2 years. So there was Swizz and Matt Grimo, who we speak about highly. Their teams are ridiculous and they look quite strong. So I'm looking at their side. I had like oldies. I had, Danger, Fife last year. So it was in, I did have some good players. So I think I had, like Bontempelli, I had Gorn, and I had like Lockie Neal. And this is a very competitive keeper league. So I went with, okay, well, Ashcroft is pick one, obviously. So I actually went and traded Lockie Neal for pick one. And I thought, well, that's going to be my rebirth. I'm going to rebuild. And like any rebuild, you have to really commit to it. So I also had Tuke as well. So I committed to that. So I got like pick 8 and Noah Anderson for Tuke Miller, which has probably worked out so far this year. But again, trying to get that younger demographic. I made quite a few trades as well to get Horn Francis in, which was good before he got traded and now looks to be worth a lot more. And just trying to kind of again keep an eye on the waiver, and I'm just trying to stack my side of anyone that's young enough or has draft currency, someone that people might like later. So my team's not great, but you got McElhaney has shown a little bit this year. Weddle as well, I picked up before he started playing, so he was on the waiver, so that he's now worth more than he was. Rivers is serviceable. Aish as well. I could offload Campbell. He's one I picked up last year, I think, and kept through. So again, just trying to keep this young demographic like Rowbottom, Chase Jones, Callahan, Windhager, Erasmus, Ashcroft, Cherry as someone who might come through. I'd like Briggs, but Matt bloody Grimo took him. And then I also got Sheasel. So what I did is I actually traded out any of my older players with currency, and I loaded up draft picks, and I said, right, I'm going to rebuild and then hopefully be able to rebuild one more year and use some good draft picks next year to then rebuild. And then that's my team complete. So the idea is to get a good nucleus of sort of 8 really strong players or 12 strong players. Ideally, you want 14 of the best, but you need to have some scope in there to pick up a few others as they go. So yeah, Sheasel, Horn Francis, Rochelle, Hobbs, Pickett can probably go. But some really good talent there. Tazayas, Rouston, Sheldrick, I picked up off the waiver. Berry got dropped as well, so I picked him up in case he gets midfield time next year and goes back to looking like he has a lot of talent. Ed Richards, Witherden, with Hearn retiring, no doubt. Witherden might be worth a little bit more, who knows? And Bowie as well. So that's where I'm sort of at. Oh, and Philippos, who I think can really come on as well. So stacking it with people that are young enough that I can watch for a whole preseason. If someone else is interested in them and I have no room, then I can try and flip them and trade them to try and move up in my draft position to then get another young talent. So that's generally what I'll try and do. Here's a player, and I'll give you a later pick for one of your earlier picks, and then try and flip and flip and flip and wheel and deal until you try and get a couple of high picks that you can, or 2 high picks or 3 high picks or whatever. I would rather have 2 strong picks and then have most of my draft picks late in the draft, especially if you're rebuilding. So if you can get, 3 or 4 of those picks, hopefully some will go in and draft the talent that's left over to fill their side to be strong for that year. Others will then try and look for the talent to rebuild. So looking for opportunities in that, and also looking for opportunities for those who might have picked up someone young to try and actually wheel and deal for that. So for instance, Jai Clark, I just tried to make some arrangements for him, hopefully, and see how we go for that. So he isn't playing at the moment. He has an injury, but also someone that has an older side, trying to target them as well as far as the draft capital. That's my draft league. So pretty much a little bit of different insight, a little bit of different way of thinking for it. A lot of the preparation does come down to the preseason, particularly for single year drafts. And then for keeper leagues, it's just about knowing your position and where you're at. So for me, again, this one's a rebuilding side, so you can really see that I've gone young. We draft just before the season, so I can watch a lot of these guys for the preseason and try and trade some off. Or the other one as well, where I thought that I was kind of going to be a little while off. All of a sudden, my team's developing quicker than I thought. So then you look at your fringe players going, okay, the ones that you were thinking of watching for a while, you just go, am I going to be able to keep them? No, I don't have room for them in my 14. Perfect. And then just starting to get, I then went and got Keys and these others who are now going to be doing well and scoring well. So I can actually now try and make a little bit of a push to, come in the top 4 or come close to having a chance of winning. So that's the different keeper league approach as well. Um, Let me know if you have any questions as well, or if you're thinking about joining a keeper league, or you're not sure where to start, or you do need some extra tips and hints for it as well. But otherwise, that's it from me. Let me know what you think. 34-minute segment. I hope you've appreciated it. A little bit of extra insight for missing you for all these weeks. And we'll talk to you soon. Let me know. Talk to you soon. Bye.